Hi guys, welcome back. It's early edition, 9 a.m. version of Sports with Mono and Mono today. Eli will be covering the St. Mary's game, so we're getting off to an early start. And of course, and I wanted to thank a loyal listener, Trish Rowe, who's going to be listening to the show for the first time today. So welcome, Trish. I know she's a baseball fan, but we got a lot of other stuff to cover. But another loyal listener in the bag, so it's great. And of course, we always start off with thank yous to everybody for the continued support for Steve. It's just, like I said, been heartwarming, and I do appreciate it, and he sure appreciates it as well. So we jump into our monologue, which of course is sponsored by Coriano Trucking of Summer Hill, New York. Like I said, had an opportunity to see Guy and his family, and it was a great visit. And like I said, loyal supporter of the show since day one, and we thank him. So we jump right into it. Our monologue this week. I know Eli had it last week. I'm back on deck, and this was a very big story, and it's I'll call it our Coach Prime monologue. Because I did watch the game last week against TCU, and I know a lot of people are saying, well, that's not the same TCU that made the championship game last year. Obviously, Max Duggan's no longer there, but they're still a pretty good team. But I'll have to give credit. I'll give credit to Sanders, and I was just as impressed with his son Shakur, who threw for over 500 yards, and this kid Travis Hunter is quite a wide receiver for them as well. So they came out, they made a statement, and like I said, you know my position on this. I felt really uncomfortable about the methodology that Dion took to put Colorado back on the map, and they basically cut like 86 scholarship players, and that's a big deal. These were kids that were on scholarship and hoping to play for Colorado for 4 years, and their families and all that kind of stuff. So I think that was a very tough method to go about it, but I can't argue with the results. I mean, I haven't seen that house cleaning type thing since the Cowboys when Jerry Jones bought the team and unceremoniously fired Tom Landry and basically gutted the whole franchise and brought Jimmy Johnson in, who, again, just like Deion Sanders, the results were certainly there. Had a rough first season, but then he ultimately won 2 Super Bowls. And so you don't see this kind of a house cleaning very often in sports, but it's been done at Colorado. And listen, they got another tough game today, although I don't know that Nebraska has bounced back to the Nebraska of old, which past few years has been terrible. But now you have Matt Rule in charge, and this will be a big test for the Colorado Buffaloes. So I'm looking forward to it. But I am giving credit to Deion Sanders for putting a very formidable team. I just, like I said, didn't agree with his methodology, but in sports and college sports in particular, it's all about the results, and he got the results this time. And hey, can't argue with it. And we're going to see how that pans out. Also, we'll get into some college football in a little bit, but there's another big game today, Alabama and Texas, which that's just a great rivalry. And I did find out that Bear Bryant, when he was at Alabama, never beat Texas. He was 0-3-1, which is shocking that he was 0 against anybody. But yeah, college football is in basically week 2 now, and we'll touch base on that. But listen, congratulations to Deion Sanders and Buffaloes, and let's see if they can keep it going. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, so please send us an email at sportswithmonoandmono@gmail.com. So, Eli, we're going to jump right into it because I think a real big story right now is the U.S. Open, right? And
Right.
it was a very big upset last night, or at least I considered it an upset, that Carlos Alcaraz, because we were all hoping to see, all right, an Alcaraz-Djokovic final, right, to settle an old score, so to speak, even though he's only 20 years old. So this going to turn out to be a great match. Medvedev has won the 2021 U.S. Open, so he's been there before. But this guy, I keep saying, Djokovic, he's a robot. It doesn't seem to have any signs of slowing up. So we're going to see how that.
He's definitely a robot for sure. He knows what he's doing on that playing field in that court, and the success for him is going to continue on. How much more he has in him, I don't know. I'll give him another 2 years, and I wouldn't be surprised if you see what happened with Tom Brady with him retire and unretire. I don't know. I just predict that with everybody lately. Seems like it's happening to everybody. So I'm just going to go ahead and go with that for him.
All right. So who do you got in the finals here? I mean, you got two top-notch players.
I know.
Listen, I mean, Medvedev has been there before, but he's always had trouble, winning. He's got a major, but
I'm going to go with Medvedev. I'm going to go with him, Medvedev.
You're going to go with Medvedev?
Yeah. Okay. Yes, I will.
I'm going with Novak because, this is like we talked last week. You never go against Patrick Mahomes, which I did, and of course
it was wrong. I don't know. I think I'm going to go with him just because Novak Djokovic, he did lose last Wimbledon. And, he's going to be trying to fight and to have that revenge. And it seems like we have been having these like rookie upsets when it comes to entering the championship. So I'm going to see it coming for him.
Okay. Well, listen, we saw some new names pop up on the scene on the men's side, right? Ben Shelton makes the semifinals, basically an unseeded guy. He gave it his all, but, he's playing against the best player in the world. And, he got taken to school, basically, right?
Yeah.
And on the women's side, you got a great final. This is a great story because we've been watching Coco Gauff since she was 16 years old, and she is an up and coming star in the women's side of tennis. She's going against Sabalenka today, who's the number 2 seed in the tournament. She's been there before. She's got majors. Coco's looking for her first major. So that's going to be a great match. That's today at 4 o'clock, and the men's final is tomorrow. And listen, tennis, the U.S. Open never disappoints. Great upsets, unusual names making good runs. And, I'm going to go with Sabalenka today. I mean, you know what's happening here. Coco Gauff's going to have 100% support, just like Serena did in her last match. But Sabalenka is no pushover. And even though Coco's 19 now, she's not 16, her time is coming. I just don't know if it's going to be today, so I'm taking Sabalenka today.
I'm going with Gauff because, hey, I'm going with this team the player that's going to have the lower seed, that's going to provide a comeback, provide this win. And even if it could be her last year or soon to be her last year, I have faith in her 100%.
Okay. Listen, I'm pulling for. I like her, but I just think 19 is pretty young against an experienced player, but she's going to have the crowd support. So maybe that motivation puts her over the top. So we'll see about that. And tomorrow the men's final, and it's going to be a marathon. And the thing is, it's going to be going against the NFL, right? This is the opening weekend in football, and
I got my eyes on football,
tennis fans. And, I know you do. So let's move on from that, and let's just touch base real quick on Major League Baseball, because we got some good races in the National League and the American League West, right? With Houston and Texas. And who's the other one? Texas and who else?
Brewers?
Seattle.
There it is.
Right? So that's really the only division in the American League side that hasn't been determined yet. And then on the National League side, it's the National League Central with the Reds and the Brewers and the Cubs, right?
Right. So there are a lot of chances out there. It's going to be an interesting ride and interesting finish heading into our final weeks of Major League Baseball before playoffs start. It's going to be interesting. I'm super excited what these teams have in store. We know they're going to be fighting. There's going to be a lot of ups and downs, and don't be surprised. The teams that we mentioned that were fighting for that first place spot is going to have some struggle and some fight, and we might see a different team next week. So keep a look at that.
Yeah, I know it's a big disappointing season for the Yankees and Met fans, and even though the Yankees have crawled back to 500. That season's over, but
that season,
look,
that season's over in my. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, go.
No, I'm just saying. So the Yankees kind of made the right decision, bringing up these young kids. This Jason Dominguez is supposed to be their number one prospect. Got off to a very hot start. Hit a home run off Verlander or Scherzer, one of the two. The first,
yeah.
So we're going to see about him because he's the next star. So you got rid of the Donaldsons, and one curious thing, I wasn't sure why they got rid of Bader. I think they may have a long-term plan that they could waive him and still pick him up because he's going to be a free agent after the season. So maybe that was just some negotiation stuff. I don't know. He was really one of the better Yankees for the whole season. I mean, aside from Judge, who obviously missed a long time with the toe. Yeah. So
yeah.
But baseball's heating up, and it's coming down the stretch. And Mets are doing the same thing. They're bringing up these young kids and giving them a shot. So they're both going to have to rebound, make some major changes for next year, and we'll see. Will Boone be there? Will Showalter be there?
Who's going to be there?
Yeah.
Right.
So let's jump into some college football, Eli, because last week there was some big upsets, right? Duke beat Clemson.
Duke was the biggest one, that's for sure.
Yeah, I think so. And a lot of that was due to turnovers, real inopportune time. So, don't dismiss Dabo Swinney and Clemson. They'll bounce back from this, but that's a huge, huge win for Duke.
And they were home too. And if you saw the crowd reaction at the end, it was like they won the Super Bowl. Like that's how big of a game it meant to them. And it truly was an exciting game. So good for them. And
I don't think they beat Clemson since like 20 some odd years ago. So that was a long time ago. And another big one, and this is a surprise team for me. This Florida State team, that was a surprise to me. I thought LSU and Jaden Daniels were a formidable team, and apparently that's not working out for them this year. So that was a big upset for Brian Kelly, who has an abysmal record against top teams when it comes to that. And that was a big win. That was a big win for Florida State, and that puts them back on the map. They're the number 4 team in the country.
Right.
And that's big for them. They haven't been in the discussion in a long time.
Right.
So there's a couple of really big games today, and let's touch base on that. I guess for me, the biggest game would be Alabama and Texas. And
I agree.
These two teams don't play very often, so it's big. And like I said, a lot of people are dismissing Nick Saban, and I said, be careful. We'll see about that. But then, of course, you got Colorado and Nebraska, and again. Is this the Nebraska team we think we're expecting to find out? This is a home game for Colorado instead of being on the road like they were last week. So we're going to see how that pans out. But if Colorado can pull this off, right, they're going to probably move down. They already moved into the top 25, which was a surprise so early in the season. But those are two big games today.
Yeah. I have to agree with them. They're going to be exciting games and fun to watch, and they'll definitely be seeing who is truly the better team. And it's always exciting when you have those two top games, and there's always an upset. That's always the best.
Yeah, and you always know that the first and second week, the major teams play teams that they should. Like I think Notre Dame is playing Ball State or something like that. So the real meaningful games don't start for quite a while, but. Right out of the gate, these are two big games, marquee games, and we're going to be watching them because that's what we do, right? That's what we do. So, Eli, let's jump right into the National Football League because this is opening week, and we actually already had a game. And I always give credit to my partner when a partner puts me in the back seat here, and you did take the Detroit Lions. Congratulations on that pick.
Thank
And
you.
I told you before the show, you should send a fruit basket to Kadarius Toney.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'd be sitting here getting an apology or from you.
Yeah.
But we've seen this movie with this guy before. That's why Brian Dable came in, says, A, this guy he doesn't stay on the field, and B, he can't catch the ball. And
Right.
that was a big win for him. But the action really starts tomorrow.
Right.
Eli, when we're gonna move in, we're gonna do 4 picks like Steve and I used to do for each
Okay.
week. So you pick your favorite ones, but this week we're only gonna pick 2 each.
Yep.
Because it's the Giants and the Jets, and these are 2 big games. And
Right. Those are the biggest ones in the market.
Right. So let's get right to the Giants and Jets. I mean, I'm going to tell you right now, I bet Brian Dable hasn't slept 5 minutes in the past 8 months preparing for this very, very game.
Right.
And the Cowboys have had the Giants number for quite a while. And this is a big year, obviously, for Jones and for Saquon Barkley. So I'm actually going to take the Giants. This is not a homer pick. This is what I actually think. I don't think I'm any more impressed about the Cowboys than I was last year. Dak Prescott to me is I like him a lot, but he's not an elite quarterback. And I'm not saying Daniel Jones has earned his way into that category yet, but he's gaining more and more confidence. They have a great coach. Their defense is more improved. So I'm going to take the Giants.
I'm also going to take the Giants because I've always had faith in the New York Giants team ever since they made that great playoff run last year. I'm taking them to win 30-24 over the Cowboys. I got a little bit of a high scoring game. The Giants have what it takes this year. Dallas has some ups and downs. It's a little bit of struggle. Dak Prescott's going to be that okay category this year. And I feel that this Giants team is the team to beat this year. And it's going to be fighting for that Super Bowl and playoff spot this year.
Okay. And when you look at, Dallas has some question marks. Can Tony Pollard come back from an ACL? That's always a question that you have to ask, right? I mean, some guys can come back from it. Some guys like Terrell Davis and those former players couldn't come back from it. So that's going to be a great game. Unfortunately, though, it drives me crazy because it's a night game, and I don't like night games. I would prefer 1 o'clock, 4 o'clock. But
yeah, I don't mind the night games. It's pretty fun. The atmosphere is great. The only thing is just like you have to like really stay up at night if you're really into it. If you're not really into it, find out the score in the morning.
Right. And like I wasn't that into the Chiefs because I just assumed they were going to roll over the line. Yeah. So I didn't watch a lot of that game, but I'm sure you did.
And for those watching, feel free to comment on the chats wherever you're watching, YouTube, Facebook, or Twitter. We'd love to hear your thoughts on any of the opinions, and you can give your score prediction and thoughts on any of these games that we're announcing, or if we didn't mention it, feel free to give your thoughts.
Yeah. And here's the second game, right? The Bills and the Jets. And I know how you feel, and I feel the same way. I think the Jets will be more improved, obviously, with a quarterback like Rodgers. But I don't know how much, that's going to turn the tide into making them. And like I said, Jet fans are thinking they're going to win 15 games, and I just don't see it. I think Buffalo is a team that people are kind of writing off, like they had their chance. And I have a discussion with a couple of Bills fans during the week, and they're pretty optimistic. I mean, yes, they're missing guys like Von Miller, who's going to miss the first 4 games. But I'm a believer in Joe Burrow. I mean, in Josh Allen.
Josh Allen.
So I think people are overlooking this, and I think I'm going to go with the Bills over the Jets this week.
I'm also going with the Bills and the Jets. I never had faith in this Jets team since day one. I always feel that they were going to be that Denver team. Yes, they have an improved roster. Yes, they have they're going to have chance for wins. I don't see them as a playoff team or Super Bowl team. And this is a team, this Buffalo Bills team they're playing is going to be a team that is already in the playoffs no matter what, as long as if they can keep their guys healthy. And this is like a playoff game tomorrow. It may not seem like it because it's only week 1. Oh, not tomorrow, Monday, excuse me. But this is going to be a playoff game, and this is going to be a struggle in the team. But I'm going to take them having a huge victory for the Buffalo Bills. I'm going 42-21 the final.
Oh, okay. Wow.
I really went above, but
yeah, but these are
Buffalo's that team. They're a Super Bowl and playoff team, and against this New York Jets team, remember, has no experience. Remember, Aaron Rodgers played not even 2 minutes during that New York Giants game in the final week of preseason, so we don't even know how he's going to play. This is going to be the first time where we'll see the true Aaron Rodgers.
Yep. So we'll follow up next week with those two picks. Eli's taking the Giants and the Bills. I'm taking the Giants and the Bills. So we won't, either
right or wrong.
Right. That's right.
Yeah.
So we'll both be 2-0 or 0-2. Let's see how it goes.
Right? 1-1.
And before we move off the NFL, right? Obviously, and it's something we've talked about time and time again. We knew that Joe Burrow was going to set the standard for the largest contract, certainly for a quarterback, right? So because Josh Allen's been paid, right? Justin Herbert's been paid, and Mahomes has been paid. So Burrow holds out. Didn't really hold out, but they knew this was, if they're going to go anywhere, they got to get this deal done. And conversely, it drove me crazy on Thursday night to sit there and watch the Chiefs game and have Chris Jones actually sitting in the stadium or in a luxury box or something while he's under contract with the Kansas City Chiefs. If I'm the Kansas City Chiefs, I say, you are not coming to this game. You're not showing up for work, and we're not going to put you in a luxury box. But they did the opposite because he's in the final year of a 4-year, $20 million a year contract, and he should be on the field. And my position on these guys holding out. You signed a 4-year contract 4 years ago, and you got to honor that contract, and then you get paid afterwards.
I'm going to bring in my 2 thoughts for Joe Burrow and Chris Jones for real quick. I honestly think he should have played. Don't be sitting in a luxury box. You stay on the field or don't show up, or you sit in a regular seat like everybody else. I get with the security precautions and everything, but come on, really? You're holding out, and I understand because they won the Super Bowl. This was the first game, and he was part of the team. But come on, really? And to the Joe Burrow thing, here's where I draw the line and say, hold up 1 second. If we remember, right when after Seattle Seahawks made it to Super Bowl 49, they lost that game. After that game, it was back in 2015, Russell Wilson got a huge contract extension. It went up to $87 million. And then it went up to 140, and at the time was the highest paid quarterback in the NFL. And then, if we remember, the Seattle Seahawks won only 3 playoff games since that contract extension happened. They missed the playoffs, and they missed the Super Bowl, and haven't been back ever since Super Bowl 49. Will this happen to Joe Burrow in Cincinnati? I think it might. Maybe not this season, but next season. I think Joe Burrow might say to himself, hey, I got the money now. Let's just take it easy. Don't risk myself getting hurt. And who cares about this playoff? You got the money now. That's what I'm thinking. Just because if it happened to Russell Wilson, will it happen to him? That's a question that I have. And I don't know.
That's a fair question, but I'm going to tell you, this guy, Joe Burrow, he wants to be known as one of the elite guys. And what you have to win
I understand
at least the Super Bowl to do that. So I don't think he's going to take his foot off the gas pedal at all now that he got paid. I think it's only going to be better for the Bengals. I really do. I think he's that determined to get through, and obviously you got to get through Kansas City, right?
I'm sure he's determined. Don't get me wrong. I just think that that it's gonna somehow he's gonna fall into that trap, like every other quarterback has done once they got their all paid extension. So that's what I just think, but we'll see how it plays out.
And so one other big contract that makes him the highest defensive player to get paid is Nick Bosa signed his contract.
Right.
And you can't deny it. This guy is absolutely one of the best in the business right now. And he's not, if Chris Jones thinks he's holding out and going to get Nick Bosa money, he's
No,
mistaken because he's not going to get that kind of money.
absolutely. And let me tell you, Nick Bosa is going to be a huge defensive player for San Francisco and is going to make that NFC West a tough division. Now, the only team he's got to worry about, Seattle, of course. I'm a little worried about that too. But we'll have to see and wait how it turns out. Seattle's got Lions next week, so that'll be interesting to see. And other notes to quickly end NFL. Cardinals are expected to start Josh Dobbs, the quarterback, for Cardinals this week as they play the Commanders.
Yeah,
And Cooper Kupp
Joshua
has been
Dobbs.
ruled out for the Rams game versus Seattle. And yeah, this is very interesting week. A lot of contract extensions.
Did you say who's ruled out for Seattle?
Cooper Kupp for Rams.
Oh, okay.
Rams game for Seattle.
Gotcha.
And the Lions game on the Chiefs on NBC was the most watched broadcast since the Super Bowl coverage. It was the highest viewed game of over 3 million views. That's how big of a game and turnout NBC had just watching both on NBC and Peacock. It was very interesting.
Yeah, I think there was like a 24% increase in viewership over the first game last year.
Right.
Yeah. So there's interest in the NFL. People have been we've been through the draft and just keep talking and guys holding out this and that, but now the season starts and like I said, I think the worst team in the league is going to be
Texans and Cardinals.
The Cardinals, yeah, I got to go with that. So we'll see about that. So we had our division winners picked last week. So and again, you can always watch the previous shows if you don't recall who we did. So we got what else? Yeah, that's it. I mean, the season starts tomorrow, right? There's this whole slate of games, and I'm kind of excited about it. Looking forward to it.
Too. I can't wait to just watch football. Just watch football. It's finally getting back to that routine.
Yeah. So let's move on to some of our random points of interest, which I wanted to bring up. I sent you a picture, and the reason I sent you this picture is because there's a big high school football game in New Jersey today. Two powerhouse teams, St. Joe's. Hey, who is that guy? That happens actually to be me and I'm trying not to date myself, but let's just put it this way. That's more than 40 years ago. And you could probably tell by the equipment, which isn't as sharp as it is today. But this is a big game.
By the way, for everybody who's watching.
That's right.
Yeah, but I don't know. The equipment looks pretty good, I guess. I don't know. Just maybe the helmet, but
yeah.
Looks.
But the quarterback for my team that day was my brother Steve. Obviously, that was Thanksgiving Day, 1980, for crying out loud. I mean, wow. Right?
Holy cow. Well, I don't know. That's interesting that you guys play on Thanksgiving. Now they barely play on a holiday. That's a treat.
Right. That's right.
It's a treat if they play on a holiday. So
yeah, it's just like everything else, everything changes, and the Thanksgiving Day rivalries, have kind of gone away because now they integrate the high school playoffs just before Thanksgiving.
Do you remember who you played that day?
That was Paramus Catholic.
And did you guys win? Do you guys remember?
We did win. We won 7-6, actually.
And is this you? Because I found another photo just now on the StreamYard. Is this you guys?
That's Steve and I. That's right after the game. You just posted the picture of. That's Thanksgiving game. I just
noticed that right here on the StreamYard. Yeah. Like all this stuff. Wow.
Yeah.
Pretty amazing.
Isn't it amazing? So that's going to be a big game. So I'm expecting there's probably going to be close to 5,000 people at this game today. So
right.
But I know you have a game.
Yes, the St. Mary Gales take on the Hawthorne Bears at 1:00. You can watch it right here on Surge Sports, and coverage will begin at 12:35. And the long as if the weather holds out, we should have a full broadcast. Now, I know they will allow to play, but our field in Rutherford has like different protocols, so we have to make sure everything goes to plan.
Okay. So just another quick random point, and I brought this up a few weeks ago. We talked about Formula One racing and stuff, and of course, this is sponsored by Lynch Toyota of Manchester, Connecticut. I ran the points. Forgot to mention that earlier. But I talked about the domination of this guy Max Verstappen, right? Who's just won his 10th in a row Formula One racing. So I don't know. That's quite a record. Again, I don't know how many of our loyal listeners watch a lot of these Grand Prix type races, but this is Gretzky like domination from this guy. That's 10 in a row, right? 10 in a row.
Yeah, pretty good for him.
Yeah. So I also want to here's a note, and it's kind of Giancarlo Stanton hit his 400th career home run this past week. I know he's been a big disappointment for the most part in New York. Can't stay healthy, can't stay on the field, and I think he could probably hang on. I mean, people will pay him, even if the Yankees try to unload him or waive him or cut him or trade him, whatever. The guy still has some home run power once he does connect. So I'm not dismissing the fact over the next 3 seasons, if he averages 30 some odd home runs, he'll join that 500 club. But we'll see. I mean, he's hitting 202 or whatever. He may even went under the Mendoza line this week. I don't know. But anyway, there's another random point because one of our loyal listeners, Jim Walsh, who I haven't heard from in a while, but listens to the show every week, had a very interesting take on the Yankees. Like, obviously, it's a disappointing season and so forth. And he brought up a point about Yankees great Yankees, right, that never won a World Series. And he brought up, obviously, Don Mattingly would be the first one to come to mind and so forth, right? Dave Winfield never won a World Series with the Yankees. He went on and won one with Toronto, I think, in Minnesota. Mm-hmm. But so yeah, this is you got to think about this, right? Guys like Gerrit Cole, probably the Cy Young Award winner this season. I think he has an option coming up, and does he want to stay in New York? I think he does, but obviously they have to do a whole rehaul. Because you got guys like Rodon that have just been one disappointing thing after another.
Right.
So I'm going to give that a little bit more thought. Oh, and Jim Walsh brought up another great Yankee. Probably could have been in the Hall of Fame if but he pitched for some terrible teams. But Mel Stottlemyre back in the 70s was a great pitcher for the Yankees, and he was actually Rookie of the Year as well back in the 60s.
Right.
So it's just been a terrible year. So we got to keep in order to keep the Yankees in our light, we got to bring up something other than the team that's been on the field this year.
Right.
And listen, the good thing is they're bringing these young kids up, right? They have high hopes for this Jason Dominguez, who is came up, started off. I think he hit a home run off Justin Verlander in his first major league at bat. But we're going to keep an eye on him. But both them and the Mets are bringing these young kids up. See what they got. You got nothing to lose, right? The season's lost. And so anyway, so that was another random point I wanted to bring up. And thanks to Jim Walsh for that. And wish him and his best to all his family and his niece out in Long Island.
Now I'm going to give up 2 random points as well.
Go ahead.
First, Chris Chelios, who played with the Chicago Blackhawks, will have his jersey finally retired on February 25th. He will retire the number 7 with Chicago Blackhawks. Congratulations to him. He now does work with ESPN, if I'm not mistaken. So
he does. He does. He had quite a career, not only with the Blackhawks, but with the Detroit Red Wings as well.
Right. And finally, Patrick McNorrie, analysis for ESPN's U.S. Open, has tested positive for COVID, so he'll be missing out the rest of the final and the Open. He was one of the lead analysis for the Open. Now will be missing out on it. So we obviously wish him a speedy recovery for COVID.
Okay, good. And I got just one or two others.
Okay.
So the Ryder Cup, and again, there's still a lot of controversy, not only on the American side, but on the European side about the captain's picks and so forth. That the tournament's coming up. I think it starts in 2 weeks out in Rome. But like I said, I'm excited to watch the Ryder Cup. I know golf is a long season, and the majors are obviously great. The Ryder Cup is something special, and when you look on paper, it's almost an equal match. You got great Europeans on that team, led by John Rahm and Rory McIlroy and those guys, Victor Hovland, right? And then on the U.S. side, like I said, you got Scotty Scheffler, and I guess the most controversial pick was Justin Thomas. So that kind of left somebody else out that probably deserved to get in, but I think Zach Johnson was going for the experience factor here. And but tune into the Ryder Cup, and we're going to be talking about that on the show in a couple of weeks too.
Absolutely.
And one last thing, Eli, because I brought this up a couple of weeks ago, this FIBA World Cup, the basketball thing.
Right.
And, you don't have a lot of the great players. You had good players on the U.S. team, but they did lose not only to Lithuania, but they were also upset by Germany the other day. And when you look at it, I don't know how relevant this is or how much interest there really was. I really wasn't interested in this at all. I mean, when Anthony Edwards is the best player on the team, yeah, he's an up and coming star in the NBA, but you had Jalen Brunson, that's good news for the Knicks because he is a player. He's a hardworking kid.
Absolutely.
Right. And but I really didn't see the interest in this. And I could see why guys like Giannis and Durant and all these other guys opted out because the NBA season's a long season. So it's a young man's game now, these international competitions.
I agree.
Right. Anyway, so let's talk. We gave our movie recommendation last week, right? So we moved off from a book recommendation to we're going to start out with sports movies. I told you Pride of the Yankees was a great movie with Gary Cooper playing Lou Gehrig. But there was also our sponsor even instructed Eli that his homework is to watch Rudy. That's one of the great movies. But from a football movie, and this was a movie I saw when I was just a kid, and it was called Brian's Song. And it was about Gale Sayers and Brian Piccolo relationship with the Chicago Bears. And it was just a great story with Billy D. Williams playing Gale Sayers, James Caan playing Brian Piccolo. And I'm going to tell you, no matter how tough you are, the ending of this is very, very emotional. And if you watch it, I'd love for you to watch it, Eli. You can pull it up anywhere, I'm sure. It's just a great movie. It's a feel-good movie, and then it's a heartbreaking movie. And it's a true story. And I couldn't recommend this higher. So I know this goes back. It was probably in 1970 or 71 it was made. But it's such a great movie. And, again, I keep telling folks, love for you guys to jump into the fray here and send us your recommendations for sports movies, right?
Right.
So we're going to give Eli a chance next week with the movie recommendations.
All right.
So, do your homework, right?
I will.
Okay, good. Like I said, again, I wanted to give also another shout out to Arda Ocal, who really, he was on our show last week. He's truly a gentleman. Did a great job with us. I could see him being, a motivational speaker at some point as well in his career, right? He's that because he took a path that, a lot of people would be reluctant to do, and it all paid off for him. And he was a gentleman and gracious to join our show, and hopefully we can have him on again.
Yes, he was a great guy, and I wish him the best success, and we hope to have him on again. Great speaker, and I can't wait to see more hockey from him as an analysis on the booth. And,
yes.
And I hope he gets his wish. He gets his Star Wars character-themed hockey day like they did with Big City Greens last year. That would be funny.
I know. I felt bad because when he was bringing up, I didn't realize he was so into the Star Wars thing.
Right.
Because I'm really not. I can't say I'm an expert. I mean, I think I've seen the first three, right?
I've seen most of Star Wars, but like the new ones that are coming out, I haven't been able to watch it yet. But I know a little about Star Wars, so I can relate to him and and understand those matters. So yeah, it's super cool that he gets to have a podcast about it. And then also he has to, if they were able to get a big, like almost like what they would do with Big City Greens and they're able to do a Star Wars theme, I think every person that's not just a hockey fan would watch it, and ESPN gets their plus and their points because everybody loves Star Wars. If it's out sports, it's Star Wars, and that's you hear out of people's mouths usually. So hopefully it happens because that'll be one of the biggest success. It would be funny.
I know, but here's the thing. I kind of felt bad that I couldn't chime in. Yes, I've seen Star Wars. I saw Empire Strikes Back, and I saw Return of the Jedi, but I never fell into this obsession that people have with the whole Star Wars franchise. And I think it's great. And I'm in the minority here. Certainly not you and Arda, because I mean more people love Star Wars than guys like me that said, yeah, It was cool, but I'm not going to live and die by it. That was interesting that he does, and I wish him really the best of luck on his podcast with that. That's a clever idea, actually.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Eli. Before we go into notable passings, I when I look at the calendar, Monday is 9/11, and 9/11 is something that I know you weren't even alive at the time, but it was one of the most devastating, heartbreaking events ever to witness, and we actually witnessed it on television. And people of my era and your father's era know people that were affected in one way or another. They either knew somebody or friends with somebody who knew somebody else. And in particular, for me, my roommate Bill Canty lost his brother Mike on that day, and it just devastated the world, the country, and many families. It's just a terrible day in history. But Sports with Mano and Mano always recognizes something that had such a major impact on our society, and that unfortunately that terrible event is something that we'll all live with for the rest of our lives. So I wanted to give a shout out to all of the families and that were affected by it, and the first responders. And I went to college with somebody whose brother was a fireman that day, and he didn't make it out. And it's just like I said, we talk about sports to kind of, get away from the realities of the world that we live in. And that was just a day that it was so shocking, and it's worth noting. And Sports with Mano and Mano sends our thoughts to everybody that was affected by that on that day. And that's Monday is 9/11. Hey, Robert.
What's up, fellas?
What's up?
Well, look who it is.
Guess what I almost had today, Jim?
What?
I almost DJ'd the St. Your school's party today. St. Joe's.
St. Joe's?
Yep. Someone reached out to me to DJ
what party?
Someone reached out to me to DJ the pregame, halftime, and postgame at St. Joe's today.
Oh, wow.
Oh. And why aren't you doing this?
Well, I had to make sure Eli and Jack were okay for St. Mary's. So in that process, because they were in school yet, I don't want to bother them when they were in class. So by the time I got back to the woman who reached out to me, they already found somebody.
Okay.
But maybe in the future, I'm on the list now, so we'll see if I can bring some state championship magic from Bergen over to St. Joe's.
Okay. Well, guess where I'm going to be at 1:00.
Yeah, I can only guess. So, Jim, you mentioned 9/11. Real quick, I wanted to, say hello again. I'll be back soon, probably next week or so. Do you think having the Giants and Jets playing, they're playing anyway this year?
You're breaking up, Rob. I didn't hear the question. Go ahead.
I'm saying, do you think the NFL dropped the ball by not having the Jets and Giants play Monday night, given a season they're playing anyway later in the season? Like, they should be playing 9/11, Jets versus the Giants.
Yeah, I guess you could. I guess you could make an argument for that. I don't know how relevant it was. It was more baseball season and the Mets and the Yankees than it was the Jets and the Giants were at that point. You know, the season didn't even start yet. So.
I mean, they're both home, which is a rarity to begin with, right? On the same weekend, they are both playing home.
Yeah.
All right, so we say hello.
Yeah.
Great job, Eli, as always.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We'll be in touch later.
Yeah.
All right, Rob. Our listenership is increasing every week, as you can tell. I know you're well aware of that. And Eli's doing a great job sitting in for Steve. No question.
Excellent. I'll be back next week, and we'll talk soon, guys.
All right.
Okay. Thanks, Rob. Thank you. So, Eli, we move to our notable passing segment, and I have a couple. One from the world of sports. Pat Corrales. He was 82 years old, and he was a manager. He managed Texas. He managed Cleveland for a couple of seasons, and he also managed the Phillies for a while. But he was well-respected coach in the baseball circles. You know, had a mediocre career as a catcher, a good defensive catcher, one of those all-glove, no-hit guys. But he was a very well-respected guy. He was also a bench coach for the Yankees, and he was 82 years old. So wanted to acknowledge that. And this one was, well, it does kind of tie into sports a little bit. Bill Richardson, who was 75, and Bill Richardson was the former governor of New Mexico and also the UN ambassador for the United States to the UN. And he really was a very influential guy, and he was probably, from a negotiation standpoint, and this is why I'm bringing him up, you know, he was an absolute master negotiator, and he was actually pivotal in the Brittany Griner discussions. He literally, that wasn't going anywhere until Bill Richardson got involved. And so Brittany Griner owes a lot to him, and she did, rightfully so and respectfully so, acknowledge how important Bill Richardson was into getting her release. So that's a big loss for humanity, because this guy was great. He was the first Latino presidential candidate, and he just had a great resume. I always admired him, and just wanted to note that he passed away.
Absolutely.
And one other one, I know this is, I'm not even sure your father might even know who this is. There was a musician named Gary Wright, and Gary Wright had a number one hit called Dreamweaver. And maybe your dad David does know this song. I'm sure he knows the song. And another song was Love Is Alive. So these were two pop culture type hits, and he passed away at the age of 80. So, you know, like I said, we take things for granted. We're all of us' time is going to come at some point, but when we see people that have had impacts in either politics or entertainment or music or sports, whatever, we always note that. Absolutely. And I know you had an additional one that I missed.
Yes, Steve Harwell. He was the lead singer in Smash Mouth. He died at the age of 56. He was born in 1967. He was the lead singer there.
Yeah. And what was their big hit?
I'm going to Google it because I honestly.
Well, no, one was All Star. Hey, now you're an All Star, right?
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
right. Yeah, so that's certainly notable. I'll give you that. Right. 56 years old. That's young. That's a young age to go. So, Eli, another good show. Like I said, you're doing a great job with the production, and our social media is expanding to new levels. And we're really consistent. And I know you have a game to cover today, so we're going to do our show same time, our little breakfast show next week at 9, because you got to get to work, right?
Yeah.
So you're doing a great job, and I appreciate it. And like I said, we're getting a lot of good feedback. And as always, we'd love the feedback. You can contact us on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube. You can always put comments or send us an email at sportswithmanoandmano@gmail.com. So listen, good luck to your St. Mary's teams. There's a lot
All
of
right.
sports going on today. So Mike Garvey gets to settle in and watch some tennis. I get to go see St. Joe's play Don Bosco. You got covering a game. So lots going on, and enjoy the first weekend of the National Football League.
Right.
And let's see how our picks pan out for next week.
All right.
All right.
Let's see how it goes.
Thanks,
good one,
everybody. And thanks to all our loyal listeners. And again, thanks for all the support for Steve. And we'll be back with you next week. Thanks.
All right.